My name is Nate. This is The Archive. We're looking at news, stories, studies, and research from the past week. Let's get into it. Welcome back. Thanks for taking a listen in again. If you're like me, living in the Midwest, we're getting hit with a lot of fun snow right now. I don't know how much snow's going on right outside, but I'm hearing around like 8, 12, and it's inches, and it's definitely still going to pile up through the rest of the night and into the morning. So I have that to look forward to. But what I also have looking forward to is a recap of the past week of politics. So starting off with Davos. President Trump, he attended the Davos summit. This is a World Economic Forum annual conference that hosts a variety of attendees, very popular in economics, politics, media, finance, and business. They're all there to basically, it's essentially a summit to discuss a lot of key political issues. Trump was one of the headliners. He had a massive speech, mostly talking about the administration's economic achievements. It definitely follows a lot of the same track of Trump's kind of rambling speeches. If you've ever seen his speeches for a significant period of time, he just kind of rambles on and on and on things that he talks about. I actually remember I went to a conference, I think this might have been back in like 2018, 2019, 2020, one of those years, and President Trump had spoken there. And it was quite literally just like 2.5 hours of him just talking and talking and talking and talking. And it's like one of his campaign speeches. Like, he doesn't have any kind of script or anything. He just talks about what he wants to talk about. At the speech that I listened to him talk at, he was just rambling on for like 20 minutes at like various different times. Pretty funny, pretty hilarious in my opinion, and he definitely did the same here. Again, just a lot of like kind of ramblings about like his administration's economic achievements, and also bashing the prior Biden administration. A lot of this build up to the Davos summit definitely culminated in a lot of, I guess, pressure or fear or anticipation with the issue of Greenland right now. So a little bit of a recap. Trump wants Greenland for national security purposes, for security for the West against Russia and China, and he's very much trying to pressure every single ally on the planet in order to get that land. He'd initially threatened 10% tariffs on a variety of European countries on that would go into effect on February 1st, which would increase later to 25% on the 1st of June. Europe was prepared to retaliate, but Trump ended up calling it off after a very productive discussion at Davos. It's when a lot of that is, I guess, Trump very much like putting his foot on the gas for all the deals that he wants to make. He comes off as very stern. He comes off in like he is Mr. Hyperbole in a sense. He very much speaks whatever is on his mind. He says whatever he wants to says. I'm going to issue all these tariffs on you unless you give me what I want. I'm definitely not going to like invade Greenland using military force, but I definitely could. Again, very, very like a heightened kind of personality or like kind of push to get what he wants. But at the end of the day, he always ends up walking back his items in terms of a compromise and like getting a like quote deal on the board. It was actually interesting too. I saw this tweet get posted about a letter from Trump given to the Prime Minister of Norway with regards to the Greenland discussion. I'm going to read out a little bit of a excerpt here. Considering your country decided not to give me the Nobel Peace Prize for having stopped 8 wars plus, I no longer feel an obligation to think purely of peace, although it will always be predominant, but can now think about what is good and proper for the United States of America. I think I talked about this last week, just in terms of like the Nobel Peace Prize being a very, very big thing that he set his eyes on, because he's built this image of it in his head of, I am the peace president, like I've caused so much peace, like I've ended so many wars, and I should be rewarded for it. I think when it's very much endemic in this tweet, Because like, why else would he say it? It's obviously on his mind, so that's why he's bringing it up. Like, obviously being snubbed by Machito. I'm totally butchering the name again because I can't remember from last week. But her getting the Nobel Peace Prize probably like made him feel like very off. I'm hoping that him getting it as the, I guess, ceremonial gift towards him was, something that could have eased his tensions a little bit. I'm not really sure because he brought it up in this letter. But I mean, we're going to end up seeing about that. It seems that following this discussion from Davos, his presence from Davos, the primary reason that, of course, he wants Greenland, the one that he talks about the most, is national security and protection in case of increased hostilities from China and Russia. And while he doesn't say explicitly that, he kind of says it explicitly and kind of doesn't. It talks a lot about the minerals that are in Greenland. It's a very, very icy environment. It's not super hospitable. There aren't a ton of people that are living there, but there are very rich mineral deposits underneath that earth that haven't been utilized or extracted. He definitely has his sights on that, even though he says that that's not the key thing. But in rumors from the meeting in Davos, in an attempt to get what he wants, the deal lays out that there's a bit of mining operations within that. Additionally, it would make the current military bases that the U.S. has the right to build and develop into sovereign locations. And what I assume that to mean, I didn't read the full law. I think this goes back to like a 40s or 50s law or resolution that was in relation to World War II with regards to the U.S. helping out with the war. We had built over some parts of Greenland and had established military bases there. And the U.S. has the right to build and develop and maintain those military bases and conduct operations there. This new deal would apparently make those areas sovereign areas. And again, there's a lot more jurisdiction and a lot more freedom and a lot less regulations towards local laws that would, again, grant the U.S. a lot more freedom in that regard to perhaps continue building a lot of the military operations that they have there or begin mining operations. Again, we don't know what the full deal of this looks like currently. This is just a lot of speculation from what has happened in Davos and definitely a lot of calming tensions from what Trump has been tweeting out. So we'll see where that is. I guess another big piece that I did want to talk about here is if you didn't know already, Trump very much, again, lives in this world of hyperbole. He talks a very big game. He makes a lot of, like, for lack of a better word, threats and public pressure for something, political pressure for something. He very much speaks what he wants, but he often like rolls it back once he sees that people are very uncomfortable and put off by this. I personally don't think that he's going to launch a military sweep into Greenland. I think that that is a very unpopular thing to do. I don't think that he would have any kind of jurisdiction doing it. I think that would very much be quickly stopped by a lot of courts in the U.S. I think if there was any kind of operation that's outside, well, I think that the deal that's going on, of course, I feel like that might be a little bit of an overstepping of bounds based on the deals that are currently in place with regards to the U.S. having military bases and can run operations in Greenland. I think I think what is being sought now is what's the word? Over excessive, because it's not popular. The Danish government doesn't want that. It doesn't seem that Greenland citizens want any of that. And it doesn't seem that the US has a lot of popular support backing that kind of idea. I think whatever gets done is ultimately going to be a very, very unpopular thing. It's going to be met with a lot of strictness, stringiness, and I mean, I feel like that might result in some very harsh criticism or, stopping by the U.S. system altogether. again, we don't know what the deal of this looks like. So that'll kind of like play out once a lot more is announced. But for right now, I think even with the perceived plans of what Trump has in mind and what's been talked about behind closed doors, I don't think there's any like kind of popular support, and he's going to encounter a lot of roadblocks to what might be rightly described as very insane policy. Moving on down, I wanted to talk a bit about healthcare. The Trump administration released what they call the Great Healthcare Plan. This is a 2-page memo about very broad policy goals and points. The 4 big things are with regards to lowering drug prices. This is meant to bring drug prices down to other similarly developed countries based on drug prices down to similarly developed drug prices in other countries based off of a May 2025 executive order that he had put out. He wants to lower insurance premiums. He wants to reduce the insurance company subsidies to return to the taxpayers. He wants to implement a cost-sharing reduction program and cut kickbacks. He wants to hold big insurance companies accountable, force health insurance companies to provide transparency for pricing into their plans, their profits, into their claim structure, and as well maximize price transparency. Lord, I'm not speaking too hot. I'm speaking too fast. When it comes to drug prices. A lot of this seems to be like, there was a few weeks ago, I think it might have been like late into the year, he wrote this executive order with regards to banning the purchase of some kind of home, single-family housing for these large companies, these large investment companies. So I know people like to bring up BlackRock, but banning essentially BlackRock from buying a lot of these homes and essentially allowing the opportunity for single-family homes to be able to buy them. Outside of, I just thought that was like an interesting like little transition on how he's trying to tackle a lot of these bigger companies, big businesses, and try to return power and affordability and spending back to the consumer. Congress had also met to release part of a healthcare package. I think this is in regards to government shutdown and Medicare and Medicaid. This is part of the American Medical Association's policy. It's a very bipartisan package. It involves renewal for telehealth. It has waivers for home health. It speaks about diabetes programs and some mental health programs for healthcare professionals. Seems kind of small. I wasn't sure the full scope of what a lot of those, I guess, subsidies and programs entail, but it seems to be just a continuation of funding and a reissue of programs that might have come close to expiration. So interesting there. My takeaways here, the Trump memo, they have very general points about what people want. Everyone wants lower drug prices. Everyone wants to know how much stuff costs. Everyone wants lower insurance premiums, but it doesn't really back it up with substantial policy. It reads like, oh, I'm pointing to the Trump administration's executive order to do this, but I don't think that lays out a very specific plan on how to do that. This could very likely be followed up by some kind of executive order that's outside of Congress and how this gets implemented. Personally, I don't find executive orders to be very sound policy. I think that we have a legislature for a reason. I think it should be actually very hard to push out certain policy, to actually like approve certain policy. And I think that's important because you need a basically majority of different houses of government that have different kind of, structures on how the populace gets, or how the elected representatives get into power in the first place. I think it should be difficult because that represents essentially a supermajority of the people of the United States to effectuate some kind of policy. I don't think that the executive orders that are just ones that the president uses to push something out, I don't think that's effective. I don't think it's effective in the terms that like, I don't think that it goes through as much rigorous detail as people might like in terms of policy. I don't think it's effective in the sense that it can very easily be checked by judicial means, striking down of executive orders. And I don't think it's effective because it's the will of one person, essentially. I think that there are a bunch of people that go into negotiating or persuading the president into what an executive order should be. But again, I don't think it's as impactful towards modifying the laws and the budgets on the books that Congress has the power to provide. Again, I'm not a big fan of executive orders, and Trump happened to push a lot of those out. And also, this great healthcare plan just kind of seems like concepts of a plan. I feel like he could have been working with Congress for a number of years to try to get something passed, and I don't think that there's any step closer towards actually having legislature on the books outside of what Congress had met for, which, again, seems to be pretty small, in my opinion. And then, let's move on to abortion. This will be the last topic this week, but I think it's really important just in terms of it's a policy that I find very interesting. I think the politics and the science kind of mend well with each other on this issue, even though it's very much one of the most divisive issues in the country. But before I get into, I guess, the divisiveness and the inherently political nature of it, I saw this MIT Tech Review article with regards to embryo scoring. I didn't know what embryo scoring was before until now. So I went down a little bit of the rabbit hole. So embryo scoring is essentially genetic testing for embryos. It's meant to screen for severe abnormalities and diseases, which is great. You're able to see something before it continues on that 9-month developmental cycle to just see okay, is this embryo carrying something that would inhibit or severely detriment its early stages of life once it's born. This genetic testing is called pre-implantation genetic testing, PGT, and it's often used in vitro fertilization, which is called IVF, if you haven't heard of those. Several companies have commercialized testing of PGT. Some are saying that other characteristics like intelligence and physical characteristics can be identified. I think that very obviously, this PGT stuff is amazing. That's the coolest thing in the world. Just to be able to, you're screening this kind of stuff so early. You're able to tell okay, I'm able to look at this embryo. I'm able to very easily determine it has this very, very debilitating condition that once it's born, it will live for 10 seconds and die. That kind of forewarning is incredibly, incredibly, incredibly useful for screening these kind of deformities and diseases prior to pregnancy. And it gives a lot more information in terms of how pregnancies can progress. I think that this could be a very effective means to reduce the number of reasons or reduce the reasoning on why women get abortions. I've talked about this in the past on a separate channel. But I think it's very important when it comes to abortion and pregnancy that you want to look into the reasons that why women want to have an abortion. And I think it's important because if you tackle those reasons instead of just banning abortion altogether or allowing abortion altogether, you tackle the reasons why women get abortions, I think that might reduce the number of abortions. If people are comfortable, in their finances, comfortable in their health, comfortable in their living situation, I think that might encourage a lot more pregnancies to occur and go to full term. In this case, for PGT, I think that could alleviate any kind of concern I feel like this might be very effective for, I'm assuming for late stage pregnancies, because you see a lot more development in later stages, in the later trimesters of pregnancy, and certain issues might be a lot more easy to identify. So being able to screen, 5, 6, 7 months in advance could reduce the need for, certain late-term abortions that happen. This conversation also does break into IVF. It's a very, very heavily controversial issue on the conservative side of the aisle, given that they believe that embryos are life, whether they're inside the womb or not. IVF is a very easy target for abortion, especially when screening for genetic features and disabilities. And I see that because I see that part of it also. If you have PGT and that occurs and you see like something very debilitating happening to your child, like 9 months before it's born, you'd probably want an abortion. Like, I think that's like probably the most reasonable take that you can get for the average person. And I think that possibly could happen more. And also, I think people look at PGT as a means of eugenics in a sense. It's just, especially with those other companies saying that they can identify other characteristics that aren't, these horrible diseases. So like, oh, I'm screening for how smart I want my kid to be. I'm screening for how tall they're going to be. I'm going to screen for how much they're going to weigh. Like, yeah, I can see that. I think it's a very difficult conversation to have. Just because, everyone always has like a sore subject about eugenics, very justifiably. I don't think that, I think it's reasonable that we don't want to, we don't want to have kids based on, how do I say this right? I think looking for kids based off of like intelligence and physical characteristics that might be appealing, I think that's not right. I think there's just, and I can't explain it. There's something like inherently wrong about that. Just in the sense that, like, we obviously don't want to treat people differently based on like certain characteristics that they might have, because they can't change that. They can't change like certain things about like their race, their sex, their height, their weight. They can't change anything about that. And like, obviously making fun of them or being derogatory towards them, that's a bad thing, because they can't change that. Making fun of anyone for anything is like pretty bad, but this is especially bad because they cannot change it. And I think if you consider these embryos a life, which like I certainly do, I think that most conservatives certainly do. I think if you're screening for those kinds of unalterable physical characteristics, that's considerably worse than, I guess. And let me step back. It's considerably worse to identify these characteristics and essentially like select them based on what a preference is, like in terms of physical characteristics, and killing the ones that don't meet that criteria. Obviously, that just seems like immoral. In the same vein that like criticizing someone for someone that can't change anything about themselves is like worse. Very long-winded way of saying that, I think that there are certain arguments when it comes to eugenics of these embryos that, they need to be discussed. They need to be like identified, prior to, well, I don't even know prior to. I think the technology seems to be out there, and you kind of just need to test for that. And I think it's important too, because, once you have a certain science, like you can't really put it back in the box. You need to just like kind of work with it and work around it. So as this technology develops, we'll see how policy kind of shapes from that. I think it's a while before, we'll have, I don't know how like, I don't know how true these companies claim that they can search for those individual characteristics. Again, we'll have to see. We'll see how that policy like kind of comes out from then. I'm a patient guy. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was the March for Life. So the March for Life, if you don't know, it's an annual march from pro-life organizers, usually based out of Washington, D.C. At least this year it was. Oh, yeah, I have a little bit of a typo here, so I'm going to fix that right now. There we go. It occurred on January 23rd in Washington, D.C. Again, a very, very big pro-life march. Seems to be hundreds of thousands of people that attend that event and march throughout Washington, D.C. In favor and in support of the pro-life movement. Vice President J.D. Vance had actually given a speech. I think he did so last year as well. He very much highlighted a lot of the Trump administration's accomplishments with regard to abortion, including the banning of fetal tissue and research, removing federal funds going towards abortion, the promotion of removing the promotion of anti-family ideology, and as well as addressing certain foreign policy matters relating to abortion. I thought that was a pretty good speech, just in terms of highlighting the accomplishments that have been made. I know he very much touted the reversal of Roe v. Wade as a very important step towards this movement. But aside from him, Pope Leo, I think it's the 16th off the top of my head, but it's the most current pope. He had offered some words as well, and I'll read his excerpt here. Indeed, a society is healthy and truly progresses only when it safeguards the sanctity of human life and works actively to promote it. In this regard, I would encourage you, especially the young people, to continue striving to ensure that all life is respected in all of its stages through appropriate efforts at every level of society, including dialogue with civil and political leaders. I thought that those were very good speeches and messages by Vance and Pope Leo. With regards to the March for Life, I think that, I'm if you know me, not a big fan of abortion. I think that there are appropriate measures to take when it comes to reduction of abortion, usually in the realm of, changing people's minds and having, indirect paths towards reducing it. So again, I thought that was very nice. One of these days, I kind of want to go to one of the March for Lives. I've seen photos and videos of it, and it seems to be, I think, a good cause, something to rally behind. But I can understand the issue of abortion from a political angle. I've discussed this in my video. You can take a look at it. It's on my other channel. I think it's a really good, substantive deep dive into the issue of abortion, some of the public policy, as well as people's perceptions and some of the research surrounding abortion policy. I think it's good. Check it out if you want my more full view of what abortion is. But I think that is all that I have at this point in time. I really appreciate you watching again. If you can see on my little table here, I have $10 laid out, and I'm going to add yet another $5 bill over here towards the mission collection. I'll have another, I'm planning on having a charity identify sometime soon so I can put this money down towards it. Hopefully it's something that's, worthwhile. Ideally, they're doing a good mission. Just want to make sure that it goes towards a good cause, good community. I want the spirit of charity to be very alive and well as we go through this year, and I hope that you're following along with me in that regard as well. But anyways, that's all I have time for right now. Please give this video a like, subscribe, or follow, whatever platform that I'm putting this on. And I appreciate your time. Have a very fantastic rest of your day, afternoon, and night. Thank you.